Welcome to the Solar Activity and Propagation Report, number 13 for September 4th, 2014. So, what has been happening in the past week? We had a week of pretty much unsettled condition because of some coronal mass ejections that hit Earth, and actually the geomagnetic storming went to the G1 level, but it never quite subsided totally. It stayed in the unsettled conditions. It was kind of complicated, and there's another filament on the sun that actually snapped and sent another cloud of particles towards Earth. So that happened on September 2nd, which means that in the coming days, we might actually have some more unsettled conditions and maybe even a G1 storm. One of the reasons why we do have such unsettled conditions is also the fact that as we are approaching fall, especially as we're approaching the equinox, one thing that you have to know is that Earth's magnetic field is weakened when we are around September, October, and also March, April, which means that even a small coronal mass ejection can actually make a big difference in the geomagnetic field here on Earth. So we had unsettled conditions. Propagation was okay at some days, at some times, but not always. If I look at my usual beacon, which is KBS World Radio 15575 this morning, it is weaker than usual. It's about an S5, S6, S7 sometimes, so which is a little weaker than I'm used to, and shows you that the conditions are a little unsettled. K index is at 3 this morning, so it shows you also the unsettled conditions. Solar flux maintained itself around 120, 130, which was not too bad, and at least it compensated a little bit about the geomagnetic storming. Now, if we look here at the K index for the past 2 days, we have been, touching the 3 regularly, which means that when we are at 3, things are unsettled, and there is an effect in the signals we hear on shortwave. So we see that it's been, except for late September 3rd, where it was at 1, most of the conditions were at 2 and 3. So that's a little more unsettled than usual. So what's the sun doing right now? That's an interesting little moment. There's a little less sunspots than there were before, but one thing that we have to notice is that there are some interesting activity coming up. 2157, 2155 just showing up here, and one that everybody is looking at, 2156. Why? Because this one unleashed a very powerful flare a few days ago while it was on the far side of the sun. So we are thinking that maybe this is going to bring us some more unsettled conditions, because it might actually send some solar flares. So we're waiting to see. It's starting to pop up right here, and the next few days it's gonna become visible in the solar disk on the Earth side. The other sunspots, 2152, 2153, are moving slowly away from Earth. On the right side of the screen, you see the possibilities of flares depending on the sunspot. So we see here that the most powerful or dangerous sunspot right now would be 2152, which gives us a 20% possibility of an M flare. So that should be checked for, since it's still not that far from the solar center here. So we might, if there would be an eruption here, it would actually probably be Earth directed. So in the coming week, everything's going to depend on what actually the sun is going to do. If there aren't much of solar flares, what we should have as conditions would be good propagation. And even though we will have probably a little bit more unsettled conditions in the next few days, it shouldn't be too bad. If there should be solar flares, then it might get a little worse. On the solar flux side, I expect it to rise because the other sunspots that are coming up are pretty powerful, and they will probably make the solar flux rise a little more. So I expect it to maybe go up to 150 around, starting this weekend, next week. So hopefully the K index is going to stay low, and we'll have increased solar flux, which means that higher frequencies will propagate well in the week coming. So that's pretty much what's happening right now. Hopefully not too much disturbances will be happening. Apart from that, the sun is still in a quiet phase right now, and so we expect it to stay like that a little bit unless there are some more activity. Really the big news and what we need to look at is that big sunspot coming up right on the edge of the sun here, because that probably is going to dictate if next week is going to be a good or a bad week in propagation. So hope you listen to your radios. Hey, we're starting September. We are in the middle. September, October are 2 great months for DX and radio listening. So open that radio, turn it on, and tune the bands. You will hear some stuff. For those that are interested in my DXpeditions, I will be trying to do one next week on Perry Island again. And we'll see the difference in propagation with, propagation changes quite fast at this time of year because we're getting into the fall season in only a few weeks now. In the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, we are going into spring, so that's the time when there's a lot of changes on the radio dial. So I'm expecting, if everything goes well, to do some a DXpedition sometime next week. I'm not sure which day. It will depend on work and also on the weather. So hopefully we will have a few videos from Perry Island. I'll be bringing along, probably be bringing along something that I haven't used yet, something like maybe my Degen DE1103 or DE1106, which I haven't used in the DXpedition as of yet. So that could be interesting. So hope you enjoyed these reports, and hope that propagation holds up and that you will listen to the dial. So thanks for watching 73s.